Last week, I had a guest on a podcast named Garrett, and he spoke about how we forget about the champion. And the reason why we often forget about the champion, we think the decision maker is the only one that can help in this process of saying yes. It's not exactly the truth. And oftentimes, there are many more individuals that we forget about. And one of the main reasons is just that we don't know. We don't map properly. So today, my guest, Peter, is going to talk about how we can do this effectively and to get the right people in the conversation. Check it out. This episode is brought to you in part by mailtag.io. Essentially, it's a tool that allows you to see around the corner. Want to know when someone opens your email? Or perhaps maybe there's a link to your proposal. Want to know when they click on it? Mailtag.io gotcha. Take advantage of a 14-day free trial. Simply go to mailtag.io. This episode is also brought to you in part by TSE Certified Sales Training Program. If you feel that your sales are in a slump, 2018 wasn't the best year. Perhaps you gave some amazing presentations. You did a lot of hard work, but still yet they left you and went with the competition. We can fix that. Check out TSE Certified Sales Training Program. We have a new semester beginning in April, and it would be an absolute honor to have you join. Go to thesalesevangelist.com/C as in certified, S as in sales, T as in training. Thesalesevangelist.com/CST. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another great episode of the Sales Evangelist podcast. I'm your host, Donald Kelly, the Sales Evangelist, and I'm so excited for another great episode. I'm so excited to be here with you today. And on this episode, we have an amazing guest. His name is Peter Chun, and he's the Vice President of Sales at Lucid Charts. Now, Peter is really cool. The fact that he went to Brigham Young University is also one of the cool factors. But the other cool thing is that he's from Hawaii. And beyond that, dude's amazing at sales. He knows one or two things that's going to blow your socks away. And today we're going to talk about account mapping. This is kind of like a continuation of what we talked about last week with Garrett. And dude, I cannot believe how many times I have gone through opportunities and did not map effectively. And that explains why some of those deals crumbled. I mean, I make mistakes. Even nowadays, I still make mistakes. But you have to make sure you plan and map effectively. And we're going to talk about that and help you to make sure you don't forget about anyone. Let's go ahead and dive into the content. Welcome to the show, Peter.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me.
Dude, I'm excited to have you on a podcast, man, and chat with you, fellow Brigham Youngites, and to hear about some of the cool things you guys are doing over there at Lucid Charts. And specifically, man, right now, we did an episode the other day talking about the concept of the champion and how so many times sellers, we will miss and overlook the champion. And you and I were talking, and you kind of said, well, DK, this is like part 2 to that. And we'll link back to that other episode so you guys can get a better understanding. But before we dive into all the fun stuff, Peter, man, why don't you tell us a little bit more about you and what you do, brother?
Yeah, so I'm Peter Chun, originally from Honolulu, Hawaii. I came up here to Utah to go to BYU, like you mentioned. I went to BYU Provo. While I was up here, I fell in love with the tech scene. You know, we fondly refer to it as Silicon Slopes. There's a lot of tech companies coming out, great success happening, right? In the last 10 years, you came to Omniture. Adobe has a HQ out here. And then most recently, Qualtrics has done some great things. Pluralsight also IPO'd this past year. So we have a lot of great companies, great talent, great technology that's coming out of the area. And so I fell in love with sales and with this convergence where you have the art of sales converging with the data-driven science of sales. And that's what I've really latched onto. I found a personal passion for it. I enjoy working with sales reps, with sales teams. I love talking sales process, strategizing about how to close deals, and more importantly, how to set up sales organizations and build organizations that help your company to scale and to grow. So that's what I've been up to. And I appreciate you taking the time to talk with me. And I've learned so much from your podcast as well. I'm excited to be here.
Bro, thanks, man. I appreciate that. It means a lot. And I highly recommend you guys go back to the show notes, connect with Peter, man. Great insights there. We could talk days, man, about some of these, some sales strategy stuff, bro. I think it'll be awesome. But let's tackle this. You guys have some pretty neat things you guys are doing right now. And when we first spoke, the idea, Peter, was like, you're just like, DK, we could what was going on with the champion is so true. But right now, the way that B2B arena of sales is going, it's evolving, and so many people are involved in the process. So we need to be a little bit better. Why don't you paint a picture for us of what you guys see right now as some of the biggest obstacle B2B sellers are facing when it comes towards getting into an account or selling, especially when it comes to enterprise sales?
Yeah, I think our sales professionals face more obstacles than ever. Your buyers are more sophisticated. They have more information at their fingertips. They do a lot more research before they even engage with the salesperson. And I think, with recent research, depending on who you subscribe to, we can all agree that the number of stakeholders within a B2B deal is increasing. It's always increasing. And now I think most recent research indicates 6 to 10 stakeholders in a complex B2B deal. And so I think one of the big obstacles to answer your question that sales reps face is defining and creating multi-threaded relationships. All too often, they're single-threaded, right? They have a point of contact. They work through that point of contact. And for whatever reason, right, whether it's laziness, the rep is too lazy to establish other relationships, or they feel that the relationship that they're building is strong enough to get the deal done. I think an obstacle is making sure that we're multi-threaded, that we're talking to the correct people within the account. I did a podcast. I joined a podcast last week as well. One of the pieces of the conversation, one of the central points of the conversation is this idea of being multi-threaded, not just with your prospect, but also on your internally within your company, right? Who else on your side, within your team, within your company, executive level, or even across the org, who else has relationships that can be leveraged, that should be leveraged to build a solid relationship, solid foundation? I think, one of our sales leaders here, he's always teaching his reps to always do discovery. It's not just a phase at the beginning of the sales cycle, but it's something that should be done all throughout. Even if the deals you're signing, right, you're needing to hash out final details of the deal, always do discovery, and the discovery will help you remain multi-threaded and help you to stay relevant on the details of the deal.
Yeah, dude, it's like that, just being, you never assume. And I think that's where I've lost so many deals, because I assumed I knew what was going on. We did we had a good conversation the other day. We were vibing and stuff. It was a single threaded approach. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, dude, something just totally screwed out of whack, and I missed out on the opportunity, or they went ghost on me, or something else, because I fumbled at the 10-yard line. And that's right. I see that often time happen to sales.
That's a good point. But if you're multi-threaded, right, you would have other contacts that you could reach out to, other people that you can talk to. I mean, even think about it internally. One way that we help our reps to understand is, like, let's say here at Lucid, we want to move forward on a new initiative, whether it's an idea for a spiff, or, hey, we should approach our accounts in XYZ way, some new idea. You don't just talk to one person to drive it through. There's multiple people. We have to talk to sales ops. We have to talk to our immediate sales leadership and get consensus, right? We have to drive that consensus across the org. And so that same idea, right? It's even more complex when you're talking about a customer external to the org. So I think that's a great point, is teaching our salespeople to be multi-threaded and having conversations. When we hold them accountable to being multi-threaded within their deals.
Yeah. And you mentioned earlier that you think maybe sales reps are just lazy, or they just don't know how. Would you say that's like what happens? Like
either sometimes they're lazy, sometimes again, when I say laziness, what I mean is they might say, hey, look, I believe I've connected with the right person. We've got the juice to move this deal through. But it does leave yourself open to risk. I think a really good sales rep is always building relationships, always finding other threads within the deal. And I think the other part, probably the bigger part of it, is that they just haven't been coached on how to do it, right? And so it's on us as sales leaders to make sure that we're providing the right content, the right coaching. Do we have the right presentation as we're working with our teams? Are we presenting to our teams how to be multi-threaded? Do we have exercises, whether it's role-playing exercises or account planning sessions? Are we implementing the right mechanisms to help our sales reps have that develop a multi-threaded perspective?
I had a conversation with Jamie from over Sales for Life, if you've been with those guys. Yeah. And Jamie, one of the big things that he's talking about in his book, like the idea of spear hunting with the sales, like you're doing this account-based approach, and you're mapping this process out, and you're creating this play, you're creating that multi-threaded approach to getting into that client or getting into that organization. I find that sometimes, though, there's a lot going on in my mind. I don't keep track of stuff effectively, right? And I imagine in an enterprise deal, dude, you mentioned there's so many more people involved. Keeping track of that in Salesforce alone is like ridiculous.
That's crazy.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like, good luck,
Exactly.
right? Things are going to get buried. You got emails, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially if it's an account if it's a complex account, you've got hundreds, if not thousands of employees. On top of that, you have a bunch of contacts that you're trying to go after. Or what we see here as well, right? Your company is working with an account. There's a long-standing relationship. There was a sales rep on this account a year ago, a different sales rep on this account 3 years ago. And so now you pull up that account view, and hopefully all you sales reps out there know what I'm talking about. You pull up that account view and you're looking at all the contacts and leads on that account. And you're like, okay, where do I start, right? And so, to your point, I think you brought that up, being able to see it visually, mapping out what do I do next, what my sales process. And when we say sales process, I don't just mean a flow chart of saying, okay, first I do a discovery, then I present the solution, then I negotiate. I mean, mapping out the org, right? Who are you talking to? Who sits where? Who reports to who? And not just who reports to who, but what are the relationships within that org? It's not enough just to see an org chart, right? Otherwise, you could even call in internally and ask the front desk, hey, could I get an org chart of the sales org or the org that I'm selling into? But actually being able as a rep, as a sales professional that's working the account to identify I met this person at the conference. This person is friends with this person and within the account, and this is how the relationship is. I think that's really important to map out. And we do something here at Lucid. We do these executive deal reviews where the sales rep, and we do it on different levels. So we might have one within the team where the sales rep is presenting to his or her colleagues, presenting to immediate supervisor and manager. And then we also have an executive deal review where we present important key deals to the executive team. Several purposes for that. One is to drive consensus. Two is to communicate to the rest of the org, hey, here's an interesting deal that we're working on. It gets everyone excited. We can also bring in obstacles. Here are some blockers that I'm running into, whether it's because of product, because of maybe the people that I'm talking to, I'm not able to get in front of the right people, and everyone gets involved. But because it's presented from that account plan, everyone can see very quickly, visually, what's happening within the account. It's like, when you're with your friends and you're trying to talk about something complex and finally you say, you know what, let me just draw you a picture. Yeah. You guys laugh, right? Like, oh, dude, you're right. You draw me a picture and I see it and it's like, oh, that's what you meant. Why did you just say so, right? And so I think that visual account plan plays a big part of it, right? And just so happens that at Lucidchart, that's really central to our mission, right? Is making work visually easy, right? So that we can communicate and collaborate very quickly and communicate these complex ideas.
Hey, we're going to take a quick break, but when we get back, Peter and I are going to continue the conversation and highlighting how and why it's so important for you to have this multi-threaded approach when it comes towards mapping and building value in the eyes of your prospects. You're listening to the Sales Evangelist podcast, and I'm your host, Donald Kelly, the Sales Evangelist. You meet this amazing prospect on LinkedIn. They're the right size firm, the right income, the right number of employees. They're right within your Goldilocks zone. They have a problem, and you can solve that problem with your software. You schedule an initial appointment. You send out an email to them and to a couple of their team members. You also send out some information about your firm, but you don't know if they're opening your emails or not. You don't know if they're clicking through and going to the web pages that you recommended. It's a Chrome browser extension that allows you to get notification when someone opens your email or clicks on a link. The coolest part is that you can schedule your emails for later. Mailtag.io has a free 14-day trial, so you don't have to take my word for it. You can go and test it out. And when you do fall in love with it, go ahead and use promo code Donald at checkout and get half off your subscription for life. Shh, don't go telling nobody about that now. Half off your subscription for life just because you're listening to the TSE podcast. To find out more information, again, go to mailtag.io. But let's continue the story. The prospect then goes ahead and clicks on all of your links. They go back to your website. They're doing their initial research. They want to schedule the next meeting. You go through the process. You create a demonstration. I mean, an amazing demonstration. You gave it everything you had, your emotion, your heart, your feelings. You gave epic value. But still yet, when it's all said and done, they said,
thank you so much, Donald. Unfortunately, we are going with another vendor. We appreciate all that you did. Thank you.
Devastated. I know that feeling. I've been there. You've been there. And it's horrible. But we can fix that. We fix that by helping you with TSE Certified Sales Training Program. we would love for you to check out our upcoming semester to learn how we can help you not only find the right customers, not only say the right things and help your clients get all the way to the demonstration, but actually what you should be doing to help them convert to come towards your product or your service. To find out more information, go to thesalesevangelist.com/CST. Again, thesalesevangelist.com/C for certified, S for sales, T for training. We have a new semester coming up in April, and I would love to have you join us. Let's help you to close more deals. Hey, we're back. And as we dive into the second half of the episode, Peter is going to continue to lay out this conversation about the multi-threaded approach, the idea of you being valuable in the eyes of your prospects by coming as a consultant and knowing more than the competition. It's amazing stuff. So you brought up so many cool things in that, man. I mean, first, dude, I'm a huge visual person. Like when I'm at home, I have a whiteboard, I have paper. I'm talking to you right now. I'm writing stuff down, bro, like drawing stuff out because it's just that visual aspect for me. One of the things I want to go back to, you mentioned, because I remember being in the situation, and I know the sales rep, like he or she is listening right now. They're like, bro, my head, this sounds like a great idea, but right now my head is spinning because I just don't know how to best go about doing it. So let's go back to the multi-threaded approach. What should I look for? Because that sales rep, I imagine they're going to go on LinkedIn and they're going to say, well, I see that they went to, Pittsburgh University and they like the American Red Cross. What else should I be looking for? What should I know? And you mentioned a couple of things like who else are they connected with? But what are some of those? Maybe give me like 3 or 5 things that a sales rep can look for to make sure that they're being effective when it comes towards mapping out the account and getting detail on someone. Am I making sense on that there, Peter?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Right. I'm thinking from that question, I'm thinking, okay, step by step, I'm a sales rep. I want to try to visualize my account. Where do I start? What do I do? Yeah. So what we do here internally with our reps that are building out their account maps, what we'll do is we'll first put on, whether it's a paper, like you have it in front of you, we're video chatting, I can see that paper. And I write out, I have little boxes for all the people. I visually represent all the people that I know in the account. So in my CRM, who have we talked to in the past? Who do we have relationships with? Who have I met? Who am I working on? So I'll map those out first. Then I would recommend the sales rep to make a box, or if you're using Lucidchart, hopefully you, other part of your document, your canvas, you put in the people that you would like to talk to, right? With whom, who have you identified as the correct people, whether it's from your ICP, your ideal customer profile, or your LinkedIn feed. Hey, this person posts a lot and they're my target company. I know that they would align well with what my company is offering. I'll put those desired targets. So step one, all the people that you already know that your company has relationships with. If you don't have it, you're coming in brand new cold to the account. You might not have anything there. So then you go to step 2, all your targets. You list out you put on your map, your shapes of all the people that you would like to talk to. Then what step 3 is to actually put out the executive team. Start with the CEO and go. And especially in the enterprise space, B2B space, you can usually go to your target company's website and find the executive leadership, put a shape out there, map all of the executives. So you have now your hierarchy, your CEO, and then you have usually your chief officers, right? Your CFO, your chief sales officer, your CHRO, your CIO, your CTO. You map all of those out. Because then as I'm doing discovery and I'm reaching out cold or warm to people, I can draw connections. Okay, who does this person report up through? What are their initiatives? And usually, this is where social selling comes in. I know you're big on that. And if I've listened correctly to the market, I've listened to what's important to my target company, I can now draw connections to their strategic initiatives, right? Because the whole idea is as I strive to drive consensus across the org, I need to make sure I identify the leaders, the executives that have the juice, so to speak, that can move this initiative forward. And if I can attach the initiative, then we've got a deal in the pipeline.
Yeah.
So those are the 3 steps I would do. Start with the people you already know. If you don't know anyone there, or if you already mapped out the people you already know, then step 2, identify your targets. Make sure your targets are all listed out. After I've done step 2 of the targets, and step 3, I map out the leadership. Start with the C-level and start working my way through as I meet people, as I have conversations with people. I'm putting more players onto the map, right? And sometimes, a lot of times, these stakeholders, these 6 to 10 stakeholders that you're working to target within an account, you might close a deal without ever speaking to them. But what's important is because they're on my map, I now know who they are. And in the conversations that I'm having, I can say, okay, is is this an initiative that was important to Kelly? Okay, great. Even though I haven't been able to speak to Kelly, I know that these are initiatives that are important to Kelly, and so they're on there. Or is this an initiative that's important to Steve? Okay, Steve is an executive running this initiative. I know how this plays into it, and I can add more value, and I become a partner, right? Yeah. Which goes to step 2 in working these large deals, being able to run this like a project manager, putting my project manager hat on and being able to run the deal.
Bro, love it. Because I think when you mentioned that, even though you may not speak with each of those individuals, like you said, you're understanding. If I know you're say, for instance, you're VP of sales and I am trying to work with the organization, I may not necessarily have to talk to you. Maybe you have a manager or somebody else that's below you that I might be working with directly, but I at least understand the initiative that you have planned, that you've put out, or somehow I saw you speak at, South by Southwest or whatever.
Right.
I got something, an article that you said something about. I can bring that up in conversation. It shows the manager, say if it's, Amber, that yes, Donald is someone that is paying attention to the details. Donald understands us, and Donald is not just an order taker. You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly. And it goes to that point, right? Your earlier podcast about champions.
Yeah.
Right. Even if you don't get to talk to me, if you understand my initiatives, understand what I'm driving, you better believe that the people that are reporting to me are also aligned, right? If I'm doing my job right, they're aligned to it as well. And so when you speak to them, you're able to help drive our initiative through, and you'll have more juice to get this deal done.
Yeah, dude. One of the times what we did internally here, we were doing some outsourcing for one of our clients, some sales outreach. And what I did was I love my theory and philosophy is that in order to be successful, do the opposite of what everyone else is doing, right? So we sent this box in the mail, and we're trying to get this demonstration with some key stakeholders in this organization. So we mapped it out kind of like what you're talking about there. We sent the packages, and we even put the receptionist as one of the individuals on our list, right? Stu Hymick is big on this. So when we sent the packages in the mail, we sent like a popcorn and like soda and this card and stuff for them to come join us, watch this demonstration, and we'd set it up properly. And it was a great turnout on the campaign. But the cool part was because we focused not only on the owner or the president of the organization, who we never ever spoke with, but we spoke with everybody else, and everyone else was able to take part in that demonstration. And we even got the receptionist something and pulled her in on it. And just mapping that out and understanding her role to our, to some of the other key stakeholders was very, very important. It was crucial, man.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's a great example of it.
So I want to get a couple more questions from you because I know, sure, there's so much we could chat about regarding this, and you got me all excited now, man, visuals aspect.
Sure.
What are some other mistakes, or why do you feel that companies don't, we talked about the sales rep, but sales leaders, because I think that's where some of the issues stem from, where sales leaders are not encouraging the account mapping. So the first thing, why do you feel that managers are not taking advantage of a mapping effectively or coaching that? And then 2, what are some advice you would give to managers to make sure they're doing this? So the first one, I want to hear, you guys have data. Why are you not seeing management doing this effectively?
Yeah, I think several reasons why, right? You might be so driven in your sales org, you might be driving your managers just, hey, hit that number. They're so focused on that number that they don't have the time to really be strategic, right? So in sales orgs that they're struggling to do account mapping, a lot of times you'll see, when you talk to the sales leaders, it's because they have to be really tactical. They're always, just flying out on their deals, just jumping on calls with their reps. They don't take the time. They don't make a conscious effort to take the time to be a little bit more strategic. And so as soon as sales orgs start allowing their and systemize, in a systematic way, they'll implementing a process where their sales leaders can be a little bit more strategic. That's where you naturally see account mapping happen. Now, account mapping, while it might be a new thing, someone said, hey, it seems like just over the past 3 to 5 years, we've seen this emergence of account mapping, but I would actually argue that account mapping has been around for a long time, right? Great sales mentors, sales coaches, you'll see them, they'll get on the board and they'll say, okay, tell me about your deal, and they're mapping out who they already know. So I think it's actually been around a long time, but I think now we have the technology to be able to provide a systemized approach to be able to tie into your CRM, to be organized, and it makes it really scalable. I think that's one of the reasons. First reason it's an obstacle that sales leaders don't make the time to be really strategic. The second, if you have young sales leadership, they just haven't been exposed to enough deals to actually think that way, think in that visual account map, being multi-threaded. But if you think about great sales leaders, sales professionals, masters of their craft, they think that way naturally. You talk to them, you'll know. Tell them, hey, tell me about a large deal you work, that you close, or that you've lost, right?
Yeah.
And they can tell you about all the different players in the org. They already think that way. So I think it's just getting, if it's maybe your younger, less tenured sales leadership, it's just helping them to understand that, helping them to think that way. So those I think are the main obstacles to be able to implement a sales mapping initiative within the org. Now, what was the second part of your question?
Getting started. I need to get started on this if I'm a manager.
Sure. So I think the first way to it can be easy to get overwhelmed, right? And so I think the first way to do that is just take your top account, right? As a sales leader, what is the top account for each of your reps? An important account, right? And everyone, you know what I'm talking about, that it's that big account that you've been chasing for months, or that account that you're really ambitious, like, hey, this thing has potential to make our year. And I'd say start there. Start with that account and just start doing those 3 steps that I talked about. Map out who you already know, who you've made contact with, map out who you'd like to make contact with, and then step 3, map out the executive leadership on that within your target org. And I think taking those steps will help you go a long way to start implementing a movement of sales account mapping, account planning within your org.
Sweet, man. Well, if there's one major takeaway I'd like folks to leave this conversation with, what's that one major piece of advice? I
would say just continually force yourself, build that discipline within yourself and within your sales org to be multi-threaded in your accounts, right? Even when your sales rep comes to you and says, hey, I've got this deal, sure it's going to close, you always need to be asking, okay, who else do we know in this account, right? And you know what I'm talking about. As the deal's close to the finish line, person's gone dark, the signer's gone dark, okay, who else can we talk to in the org? And if you've been if you've had that multi-threaded approach from the very beginning, you won't be stuck. You say, hey, call George over there, call Peter, call Kara over there, and let's get her on the phone and get more insight to what's happening on their end, see what else we can do to move it forward. So I'd say that's the biggest takeaway, right? Is be multi-threaded within your deals, internally and externally. So when I say internally, who else can we mobilize within our org to help us move this deal forward?
Love it, man. And if folks want to get in touch with you or to check out Lucidcharts, where should they go about doing so? How should they get started on testing you guys out?
Yeah, I'm pretty responsive on LinkedIn. Feel free to reach me on LinkedIn, Peter G. Chun, VP of Sales at Lucidchart. You can also, Lucidchart, we are a freemium product, so you can already but you can already sign up for Lucidchart and use our solution there. There's free sales templates there. But if you reach out to me directly, I can also help you get pointed in the right direction and even share some best practices as you implement a account planning, account mapping initiative in your org.
Done. We'll put this stuff in our show notes, man. Peter, we truly appreciate you taking the time to come on the show today, man. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate what you're doing. Keep up the good work, and we'll be in touch.
Anytime, brother. Man, I'm telling you, man, Peter came, he saw, he conquered, he delivered some great information today. And if you haven't checked out Lucidchart, I highly recommend you go and do so. Find all the information back in the show notes. thesalesevangelist.com/the-word episode number 1053. Again, thesalesevangelist.com/the-word episode number 1053. And while you're there, make sure to check out MailTag. They have a 14-day free trial. You can test it out. And if you fall in love with it, then go ahead and use promo code Donald at checkout to get 50% off your subscription for life. Can't beat that. Find all the details in the show notes. thesalesevangelist.com/the-word episode number 1053. Also, check out TSE Certified Sales Training Program. We have a new semester beginning late April, and I would love to have you join us. All in all, I share this with you because I want to help you. I want you to find more ideal customers. I want you to build stronger value. I want you to close more deals. But most importantly, I want to challenge you each and every single day to go out and do big things. Stay tuned for a scene from our next episode.
Your plan for your success is failure's not an option. As we heard here today, you fail, you learn a lesson until you get to your successful outcome. And you can't give up, and you gotta stay positive. There are not going to be opportunities immediately. Sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't.
Yeah.
But me knowing that I have suppliers in this space that can do this task or have this product lets me know I have a resource.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed the show today as much as I did. And if so, I ask that you go ahead and leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Spotify, or wherever you listen to fine podcasts. It would be greatly appreciated. And if you haven't done so, just go ahead and hit subscribe. Show your friends, your colleagues, your neighbor, your boss how they can subscribe as well. I'd love it. Our show today was produced by myself and the Sales Podcast Network. It was edited and mixed together by the one and only Mr. Joshua Nobel. Our content writer and show note creator is Mr. Shannon Rasmussen. You can find audio credits to this and all of our episodes in the show notes. And as always, I am your host, your coach, your mentor, your guide down the sales journey, Mr. Donald C. Kelly, the Sales Evangelist. Sales Podcast Network.